There is a lot more information that I think needs to be reviewed. I think that the committee is going through all of that, and all the other investigative agencies are dealing with this issue. And I think we both agree, or at least I definitely agree, I'm pretty sure the governor shares these thoughts, that, you know, to a certain extent we have to wait and see what else transpires. But from the governor's office and its relationship with the borough of Fort Lee, we believe that today's meeting went in a very productive course of action, and we're content at the moment, and the investigation will tell us the balance of what needs to be told.
Did you
I accepted his apology. Yes, I did.
All right, folks, that was yesterday after Governor Christie had met with the mayor of Fort Lee, Mayor Sokolich, the mayor coming out and making a statement and taking questions. And joining us now to talk about the latest and his thoughts is Steve Strunsky, New Jersey Star-Ledger's main reporter on the Christie case. And Steve, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome, Steve. No problem.
All right, so where do you think we are right now? Let's start with that. Where do we go from here, and what are we waiting for? I mean, as far as hearings, investigations, and what's the next time you think we hear from the governor speaking about this? Weeks, months, days?
I'm afraid I can't predict the next time the governor is going to address the situation. Probably the next thing that will come up is examination of the complete set of 907 pages of documents
right.
that was subpoenaed from David Wildstein, the Port Authority official who actually gave the order to go ahead with the bridge closure. Those records have already revealed the email exchange between Wildstein and Bridget Kelly, the former Deputy Chief of Staff in Christie's office, who lost her job on Wednesday, along with Bill Stepien, who lost the governor's support as the new state GOP chairman. Those were probably the highlights of the 900 pages that Wildstein turned over after the subpoena, which is why the State Transportation Committee really focused on them during its hearing on Wednesday afternoon. So whether or not there'll be any more bombshells coming out of that batch of documents is unclear.
Let's talk about the woman who died and the EMS or first responder response time, which I believe you've written about, showing that there were delays. But that one death in particular, I believe the daughter of the woman, the 91-year-old woman who died after being taken to the hospital by an ambulance that was delayed in that whole mess. She said that it had nothing to do. She doesn't feel it has anything to do with her mother's death. She just said it was her time. Is that going to take the edge off that issue?
Well, I guess it's not always up to the family of victims of if she is indeed a victim of any particular crime or simply unfortunate incident that decides whether or not anything gets investigated. But in this case, it wasn't only her. The Fort Lee EMS coordinator who mentioned 4 cases of delays in a letter to the mayor that he thought resulted from the lane closures, did not assert that the 91-year-old woman's demise was the result itself of the delays. He simply noted that was one case in which there was some delay, but again, there was no assertion that she died because the delay occurred. She was already unconscious when the call was made and later pronounced dead.
We're talking to Steve Strunsky, New Jersey Star-Ledger's a reporter here on the Steve Malzberg Show. All right, so let me ask you this: as far as the apology, I mean, 48 hours ago, a lot of people were saying that's it, Christie's done. If he was telling the truth yesterday, I think the consensus seems to be in line with what I said yesterday, that if he's telling the truth, if he's not, like I said, get him a passport out of the country, but if he is, then I think this only enhances his leadership skills, or the perception of his leadership ability and skills, notwithstanding that people in his office did this, but that he can handle a crisis or a scandal, take action, face the music with questions, fire people, and I just don't see it being a negative if he's telling the truth.
Well, I'm going to refrain from punditry, Steve. But I will say this: that
right, you're not a columnist; you're a reporter.
Yes,
yeah, and I appreciate that because it's rare these days that someone would say that. Yeah.
but there have been comments on both sides of that argument that the governor has apologized. Yes, he's been contrite and he took action. Yes, firing his deputy chief of staff and the would-be Republican chairman, his political consultant. But at the same time, others have raised the issue that why did the governor not know that this was going on in his office? And so I guess there are those who are inclined to look at the negative side of the whole thing, who might say that, well, this might show, I don't know if an absence of leadership is the right term, but a lack of awareness of all that's going on in his office, or maybe even the lack of climate that would allow people to feel comfortable enough to broach these kinds of difficult subjects with the governor.
Well, let me get you off the punditry, and let me ask you about what happened in the Assembly yesterday, or in the legislative branch that questioned Wildstein, who took the fifth. They're now trying to hold him in contempt. I asked Kendall Coffey, famed attorney, about that after the fact yesterday on this show, and I said, could you hold someone in contempt for taking the fifth? And he said, no. So I'm not sure. Do you know more about what that's all about, why they would try to hold him in contempt after he exercised his constitutional right?
Sure, and I think I misspoke when I mentioned Wednesday's hearing. I meant Thursday. Sorry.
That's okay.
The committee's position is that the witnesses who come before them are not entitled to Fifth Amendment protection, because that essentially is a protection, is the right not to incriminate oneself. And the position of the committee chairman, John Wisniewski, is that the committee is not a court of law. While it does seem to have some kind of legal authority to compel testimony.
Right, it subpoenaed him, right?
It did. But there is a provision in the statute that gives it subpoena authority that also states that statements that are made as a result of a subpoena by the committee, testimony cannot be used as evidence against a witness in criminal charges. So the response was, well, the fifth is appropriate when you're talking to police or a prosecutor of some sort, but we are not police or prosecutors. This is a legislative hearing to try and get information and not necessarily try and prosecute.
Well, I look to the Congress. I mean, people take the fifth when they're testifying under oath in front of the Congress all the time. So we'll see how that plays out. And what about the chief of staff or assistant chief of staff who was fired by Christie without even talking to her? She's going to be testifying anytime soon, you believe, before that committee?
Well, the chairman Wisniewski, again, he said that he does plan to continue to subpoena folks. Ms. Kelly was one of the people he talked about, Mr. Stepien, and Bill Baroni as well, the former deputy executive director at the Port Authority, whose resignation was announced by Governor Christie last month, a week after Wildstein announced his resignation. And Baroni did appear before the committee back on November 25th. When he
talked about the traffic study.
That's right. But that was voluntarily, and he was not under oath. So, right. And that was also before the committee had received a similar trove of documents based on a similar subpoena to the one it issued to Mr. Wildstein. So now, with these additional documents they received from Mr. Baroni, and with the provision that he'll be under oath, he may be called back.
Yeah, I would assume. Yeah, that would make sense. All right, listen, Steve, thank you very much for taking the time, and I hope you'll do it again.
Oh, thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you. Steve Strunsky, ladies and gentlemen, Star Ledger reporter on this case, main reporter on this Bridgegate scandal. All right, we're coming back. When we come back, interesting, we're going to be joined by a man who could change the way you look at your personal financial future. How's that for a tease? Coming up right here on the Steve Malzberg Show.